Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me just echo what you said at the beginning of this hearing in terms of the great loss we all feel on both sides of the aisle of the passing of our friend Lindsey Graham. And as we commented yesterday, he was not on this committee, but he sure as hell acted like he was on this committee on many times. Mr. Clayton, Jay, it's good to see you again. And it was great to have the opportunity to meet your wife, Gretchen, in the anteroom. And I'm going to start with where the chairman started. And I have addressed this before, but the process we've gone through to get you before this committee is really pretty remarkable. I can't think of any other instance in the history of this committee where a president sends a nominee up, and then in a bipartisan way, we say we really want to move heaven and earth to get this nominee moving through quickly because of the importance of the position. And then the president decided that the Senate was moving too fast on his own nominee and pulls that nominee for a while, pulls down the hearing, and in the meantime blows up the FISA reauthorization process, which is critically important. Now, I know you had nothing to do with that, and we're probably as surprised as many of us. So I guess congratulations about getting finally in front of this committee. I also want to thank you for your partnership when you were SEC chairman and when we worked on investments in human capital. But when I last talked to you, this job is very different than anything I think you've done in your long career. And I'll have certain expectations of how you would perform the duties of D&I. These are expectations I make clear to all IC principals throughout my time on this committee, regardless of administration. First and foremost, as most know, this position of D&I was created after the events of 9/11. And as such, and Senator Collins had a large role in creating this position, it said law requires the D&I have extensive national security qualifications. Because if you get this job, you're going to have intimacy with all of the nation's top closely guarded secrets. Now, I know you've served in some very distinguished positions, SEC chairman, U.S. Attorney for Southern District. I look forward to hearing how those positions will meet that qualification of extensive national security experience. Second, as I mentioned, the D&I has literally access to all our nation's secrets, things that are limited only to the Gang of Eight here in Congress. And I will hope that you will treat this sensitive information with the kind of respect and security it deserves. As members know, one of my greatest concerns with President Trump's appointment of Mr. Pulte as acting D&I is that Mr. Pulte had no national security experience, and if anything, it's what seemed to be his one qualification. He had a demonstrated record of releasing private, confidential mortgage information so we could weaponize it for political purposes. I can't think of a less qualified individual to be anywhere close to the D&I's role. In fact, there's already reporting about Mr. Pulte's plan to do what intelligence on elections, some that's based on and how we might misuse some of that on some of our most sensitive sources. And just don't understand how Mr. Pulte, and one of the reasons why I am anxious to get a permanent D&I, can end up figuring out what is appropriate or not appropriate since he's been in the job for only 3 weeks. And again, with no national security experience. Our nation's security depends on our ability to protect secrets and protect the people who gather those secrets, whether it's allies, partners, or assets we have recruited. Carelessly handling that information ultimately makes our country less safe. Lastly, I urge you to stand strong in protecting the most sacred of the IC principles, speaking truth to power. This commitment to truth is literally carved in stone at the CIA's headquarters. It is fundamental to not only the functioning and credibility of the IC, but also to the security of the American people. We have seen what happens when policymakers are allowed to shade intelligence for political reasons. It results in endless wars, tens of billions of dollars in wasted taxpayer dollars, and literally thousands of dead Americans. Unfortunately, we have seen repeated attempts by this administration to politicize the IC. From a senior administration official telling IC officers to change their assessment because he feared it would make the president look bad. That's the absolute epitome of undermining speaking truth to power. To the former DNI literally inserting herself into an active domestic law enforcement action in Fulton County and seizing voting machines in Puerto Rico. Nothing within the gambit of the DNI. It's about foreign intelligence and foreign interference. And in fact, recent reports suggest that the IC's annual analytic objective survey, where they go out to the whole IC community and say, how do you think things are going, shows a substantial increase in the number of IC employees who say they are concerned about the intelligence analysis being undermined by political interference. Again, the opposite of why your role was created and the opposite of what the goals of the IC should be. I hope that should you be confirmed, you will make it clear that this kind of politicization has no place in the intelligence community. And I ask that you treat the thousands of IC career staff who will be under your charge with the kind of respect and dignity they deserve. They are brave men and women who've signed up to serve our country, and they never get the recognition that our men and women in uniform get, but they do so much to protect our nation. And as I said at the outset, this is a very different job than any you've had in the past. And in some ways, I believe it's more critical than being SEC chair or U.S. attorney, because in many ways, the IC is our first line of defense in terms of keeping our country safe. In order to make sure we keep our country safe, the IC must also maintain the trust and credibility with the American people, which means objective analysis, keeping itself free from politicization. I look forward to your answers. Congratulations again, and I yield back.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.